Hello folks, and welcome to a new series on the elements and principles of art. In this first episode, we're going to talk about the element of value and how mastering it for the color pencil artist will take your shading from dull to wow. Values is the light and darkness of color on your subject, and shading is the process by which we use values. Crucial for creating contrast, values define form and establishes a sense of depth. Artists use it to portray highlights, midtones, and shadows, giving objects dimension and realism. It's what makes our artwork jump off the page. The goal of this episode is for you to be introduced to values and learn how to quickly identify value ranges within colors, how to start to master its use with shading, layering, and blending. Over time, your confidence will grow as you practice these skills, and I know that you'll start turning your work into stunning pieces of art. So let's start with a big question. Have you ever asked yourself, why does my artwork sometimes look flat or dull? Well, the answer could be as simple as you're just not using enough values. It could be that you're not comfortable going super dark or light, or maybe your subject just doesn't have a big enough value range. Or maybe it's all these things and you just don't know where to start. In the end, you're here because you want to learn, and to me, that's fantastic. So let's jump into the element of value and start drawing. I'm going to create 3 value scales from 3 source images: red apples, purple flowers, and green frogs. I'm using luminance colors on Fabriano Artistico hot press paper. Our colors are luminance red 070, green 220, purple 120, and black. You've probably seen many value scales, but maybe didn't know why you would even need one or how to use them. Value scales are the linear representation of values that you see on subjects. They're a simple way for us to study what a color can do in its range from light to dark. When working on a value scale, we first determine the main color of our subject or part of our subject. We examine our subjects more closely and we keep asking ourselves this question: what am I seeing in the value range? Do I see any whites? Do I see a main color or mid-tone? Do I see any blacks or darks? Our subjects are clear in their colors. We can see red, purple, and green, which are the main colors. As we get our main color from our subject, we also can get our value range in the same way. The idea with a value scale is teaching our brains to know how to successfully take a main color and shift it to light to dark. It's as simple as that. It's just a practice exercise to train us to better observe and jump in quickly with our drawing. A general rule I like to teach to is that you need a minimum of 5 value ranges on your drawing to be successful in your shading for a more visually dynamic image. Let's look at these 2 reference images. Which one is more interesting? The image with almost no value range or the image with a lot of value ranges? Depending on what you're working towards, most times we want an image with a big value range, as this will create depth and visual interest. But what happens if you don't actually see a big value range on your subject, like this fox image? It's going to be up to us as artists to keep remembering values and value ranges. Ask yourself this question when you look at the image or your reference object. Do you see a value range that goes from light to dark or thereabouts? And if you can say for sure no, and you know you need to see it, then what can you do about it? You're going to use something that's called artistic license and train your brain to put in those values even if they don't exist. Train yourself to strive for a greater value range than what you actually see. Now, remember, I mentioned that you want a minimum of 5 value ranges, and this is important because not all subjects will have a full color range from 1 to 10. Exceptions would be white subjects or very dark subjects, or subjects that are not shiny with high reflections or highlights. These subjects, you might only get 5 value ranges. But no matter what the value range might be, if your subject does not show a big value range of highlights, then you need to fake it and just add it in. And if you're scared to do this, or you don't even know where to begin, or you might be worried that you're going to go too far, then do a lot of practice and practice it on a separate sheet of paper. Remember, this is all about practice, and be kind to yourself. You should also know that mistakes are okay. Just keep going and keep at it. So let's go back to our value scale and our color. Most colored pencils gives us the purest form of the color by the painted end of the pencil or the barrel. If you're not sure where this color sits on the value chart, you can use this one, and you can download it as I put a link in the description box below. Look at the color or something similar and find the corresponding grayscale number. That number is where the color sits on your color scale. As you become more familiar with values, you'll know automatically what the number is. Let's look at our colors now and find the corresponding numbers. We can see that the red, green, and purple sit about the same place on the color chart. It's about a 5 or 6. As you become more familiar with values, you'll know automatically what the number is. So now that we've determined the color number, I'll start adding them to the value scale, and I'll switch to a time lapse at this point. As we work the color to the left, it goes lighter. This is called a tint, and as we move to the right, it's called a shade. I have a video on mastering hues, tints, and shades, and I'll provide the link in the description box below for you guys. On the shade side, I'm using layers of color from the main color to black, and as I move further to the right, I'll mix it in and layer more and more, and I'll get black at the very end. I always start with the main color and then gradually shade in layers of another color to get my color range. Again, the idea of the value scale is simply a practice exercise and a reference for you to train your brain. Remember to work towards a greater value range even if you don't see one on your subject. A helpful tint is to squint your eyes. This will help to eliminate all details and you can focus on just the subject. If you don't see a big range of values, then use that artistic license that we talked about. So let's jump into the obvious statement here. But when we're drawing with colored pencils, we don't normally work with just two colors. And that's right, of course. We work usually with a big range of colors as we layer and build and shade our subject. Sometimes it might only be 2 additional colors, sometimes it's more. It's really all about doing what the subject is telling you to do and just finding your colors for that. So it's really okay that in this situation, we're just looking at 2 colors with black because we're just doing a training exercise. When we actually move into drawing the spheres that you can see below, we're going to be working with a couple more colors to get those dark shades. The color scale is not about the practice of layering multiple colors. It's about the practice of knowing a color's value range and that it's for personal reference. And how we can get there the fastest way possible is the best thing in my opinion. The process of using values is called shading. Shading is a technique used in art drawing to create values by adding layers of colors. It involves using various strokes or marks to create different shades of darkness or lightness on the value of the subject. Sometimes I can have up to 10 different colors in use for one subject. As we draw these spheres, I'll discuss the shading method I'm using to help you along. I'm also going to break down the components of the values on a subject. Generally, all subjects will have the same components, and they'll be dependent on what is beside the subject and if the subject is sitting on a surface. So what we have is a highlight, we have a quarter tone, a half tone, a base tone, a reflection, and if the subject is on a surface, the extra part of a cast shadow. Getting the light side is easy. We just press lighter with our pencils as we've done in the value scale, and we can even add white to the end. When we're working with multiple colors, we can even switch to a lighter color that is in the same color temperature and hue, again adding visual interest. The dark side is a bit of a challenge though. How do you get our colors to go dark without muddying them or significantly changing the hue so it doesn't look like it's different from the subject? With most color pencil artwork, we layer using a blending and shading method. We can get dark areas on our subject by using the color wheel as a reference. That's my favorite thing to do. The color wheel plays a big role in what colors you use to help you shade. I'm drawing with red and I want to create values. So what can I do if I don't want to use black? In this case, what I've decided to do is to introduce a complementary color and an analogous color. So green, which is a complementary of red, is going to help the red go a little bit on the darker side. And the analogous color that I'm going to be using is purple. So those 3 colors that we did in the value scales, I'm using them to actually create shading for these spheres. as I'm putting down the color, I'm using a variety of shading methods. I'm using a contour line. I'm also using a scribble, and this helps to blend all of the colors together successfully. I really like using contour lines when I'm working on areas that have curves on them because it helps to create the illusion that the subject is curved or round. I keep building layers by adding more shading, which increases the values. Again, following the areas of the reflection. I'm using only red at this point as a way to shade in with blocks of color. Next, I'll add in the purple along the lower edge of the sphere. I'm not going to pull the purple up too far towards the highlight, as I want it to get lighter, so my shading is going to transition very gradually towards that highlight. You can see that the sphere looks quite purple and red at the beginning, but as I add more layers, that will transition into a darker red. I'll jump back into the red and keep building the colors. Not pressing too hard with the shading, and small contour lines overlapping and blending so the color is smooth. As I add more red, you can really see the values starting to build, and it looks like a dark red and not purple. This is the power of shading with values. It's remarkable what you can do with just a few colors. At this point, I'm doing a careful light layer of green. Don't go too hard or you're going to really get rid of that red color. The values are really building, and the shading is coming out very clear. It looks like a soft dark red, almost black. You can also see the reflection area, the base tone, the half tone, the quarter tone, and the highlight. I'm adding more purple and I'm building up the values. And at this point, I'm adding red to blend all the colors together, analyzing and really creating the value ranges for our subject. Now I'm moving on to the purple, adding a base layer over everything with small light contour lines and shading techniques. Coming in with red, the analogous color to the purple, and building up the values with the layers of shading. I'm adding more purple to blend together. Remember, the parts of shading are layers, blending, and creating values. It's lots of time and it's back and forth quite a bit. Layering in the green to darken the hue because green is an analogous color to purple. And we want to use green and not a complementary color of purple, which is yellow, as the yellow is too light. Our thought process is that we're striving for a value shift. To do this, we look for colors that complement or harmonize with the purple to create those values. We want to go darker and not lighter. Using the complementary color of purple, again, which is yellow, is not going to benefit us to create those values that we're looking for. Using the green, which is an analogous color and is in harmony with the purple, works a lot better for our purposes. Think of it this way. Adding values to darken means going dark. You can either go with a deeper purple or add a red and a green. Practice this and you'll see what happens when these colors work together. I'm adding red to help with shading and value ranges. And I'm going to finish off the purple to help keep the colors of the subject more in the purple range and making sure it doesn't lean too much on the red or green side. So I'm blending all of the colors together with this purple. Starting with the green sphere, adding a base layer the same as the other subjects. I'll add an analogous color of purple to the green as the component to build up the values with shading. Working with colors to achieve these results can be intimidating, but they don't have to be. In future Elements of Art videos, I'll discuss the basic components of the color wheel and how you can start to use it to your advantage, how to start using different colors, and how to apply them and mix them well together. I'm adding red, the complementary color of green, in reverse to what we did with the red sphere. Then back to green to blend those colors together, keeping the essence of the green as the main focus. And finally, I'll use a Prismacolor blending pencil to help finish all the shading and blending the colors more together. In this final section, shading with values with a defined subject, I'll employ the exact same method of adding values to a subject using shading techniques. The effective use of values enables artists to convey mood, atmosphere, and emotions in their artwork. Dark values can evoke feelings of mystery, drama, or melancholy, while lighter values create a sense of brightness, joy, or tranquility. By skillfully manipulating values, artists can elicit specific emotional responses from their viewers, effectively communicating their intended message. By understanding the significance of values, artists can take their creations to new heights, effectively communicating their intended message and eliciting emotional responses from viewers. Through observation, practice, and experimentation with different techniques, artists can master and manipulate values, creating artwork that captivates, inspires, and resonates with audiences across various art platforms. So, embrace the power of values and unlock the potential to create impactful and emotional engaging artwork. Thanks for joining me.